We're live. Let me know if you can hear me and see me in the chat. It is high. It is far. It is December the 14th, 2025. 1001 hours on the East Coast. And it's that time of season. It's that time of season. Let me know if you can hear me and see me in the chat. We're running OBS. We got to make sure everything looks right. We seem to be okay. But we got High Karate right there. We got Aunt Jets right here. We got Venom. Venom. Venom says it's all good. Okay, so if you can hear me okay, see me okay, we got a lot going on at FSPN headquarters. The bell is out. We don't have the bell. Sorry, Joe Mike, because the bell does not work with this microphone. If we want the microphone and the camera and all the things to work and not crap out on us, then this configuration here works the best, but we have to sacrifice the bell. Sorry about that. Todd is here. The great Phil Adams is here. Phil Adams, he's not even in this country. He's in a whole other country. Now, I'm going to try to... this one. Connect. Okay. All right. So now we got some data there about who's actually here. But, of course, it's Week 15 in the NFL. We got NFL news. We got Jet news. We got it all. Now, in case you missed it, Brady Cook is going to be starting for us today, a football game. Nobody would have anticipated that at the beginning of the year. But here we are, and guess who's backing him up? It's old Adrian Martinez. The Martinez package is back. Yeah. Spin Max Dave says, no bell, what the hell? Yeah, sorry. Sometimes in life, you got to make sacrifices, Dave. That's just the way it goes. Now, this is Coffee with Frankie. This is the coffee. I'm the Frankie. In Jet news, as far as Jet news is concerned, transactionally, A.Z. Thomas is out today, and he's going to be undergoing surgery, in case you missed the news, on his shoulder. So that's no bueno, but hopefully he'll be fine for next year. It's the shoulder, so nothing with the legs. So that's kind of if you're going to have something, it's kind of not a bad one for a cornerback. So Azareye'h Thomas goes on injured reserve. He's having surgery, out for the year. See you next year, Azareye'h. We also activated linebacker Cam Jones. So Cam Jones is a special teams contributor. See if he can crack into the lineup for linebacker duties. We've also elevated Adrian Martinez, who we recently signed back after the 49ers let him go. 49ers let him go because they got Curtis Rourke back. Remember, Curtis Rourke is the Indiana quarterback that started this whole thing for Indiana University with old Kurt Signetti. And then now we got Fernando Mendoza winning the Heisman last night, in case you missed that. Nando won the Heisman. And we also elevated defensive back Trey Brown with Azareye'h out. I would anticipate that means Sticky Sticker is going to get a start. So it's an opportunity for Sticky to show, hey, maybe he can do more than be a good special teamer. So far, he's been a success, a smashing success, if you think about it. For Quantez Stiggers, he didn't play any college football at all. And we drafted him. And now he's a key special teams contributor. That is a success story. So that's one thing. Now, another level. Can you become, and he was a backup defensive back. Now, how can you play if you're starting? It hasn't been great when Sticky's been in there as a defensive back. But now you're getting your shot to start. what can you do with it? Probably the rest of the year going to be Sticky Stickers opposite Brandon Stevens. And can he show something in that regard? Can he be at least a good backup corner, something more than just a special teamer? So, opportunity for Sticky. And we elevated Trey Brown from the practice squad as well. And we've also signed, so Jordan Clark is now on the active roster. So Jordan Clark will probably get most of the nickel duties. Last week, the Jets were in heavy base, and they did not want Jordan Clark out there. When he was out there, he didn't play well. So can he improve? Can he develop? We'll have to see. Jarvis Brownlee is on injured reserve, and so that corner spot, I don't think the idea of just playing more base was a good idea. Steve Wilkes, because we tried that. We played probably the highest percentage of base, meaning 3 linebackers on the field, versus the Dolphins, and they killed us on the ground anyway. The whole point of staying in base is you should be better against the running game, and it didn't work. It's terrible. So we'll see how they play it this week. Maybe they feel more comfortable with Jordan Clark. Maybe they'll play Jasir, whatever his last name is, Tyson Taylor, Jasir Taylor. There's too many people with common names. Clark, Taylor, Johnson, Jones. How am I supposed to keep track of these people? Anyways, Jasir Taylor. Maybe he is. Now, he was inactive last week, kind of weirdly. So maybe they don't like Jasir Taylor. That's a guy that we picked up at the last minute at the trade deadline from the Chargers. Kind of had hope that he could be somebody who makes a team next year, as a cheapo contract. But if he's going to be inactive when we have Jarvis Brownlee out, that's not a good sign for Jasir Taylor. So we'll see how Jordan Clark does today. Maybe he can improve. That's somebody you also want to hopefully be able to sign. We got a lot of people that we need to sign. We do have a lot of free agents this year. And one of the things that for all the Jet beat writers, the ones who put out a column regularly on Sunday, no matter what, even if they're depressed that we're so bad, Dennis Waszak, it's not a good column. But then Rich Cimini, you got to give Dick Chimney credit. He at least puts out the content. It's not content you like. He's not great, but he at least produces. He's got a new column this morning. Think about it. Think about it from his perspective. It's hard to scratch out a column about this freaking team. And he's talking about Achilles. He's talking about the Colts draft pick because Daniel Jones had an Achilles. Same as it ever was. The Jets have traveled to play the Jacksonville Jaguars going back all the way to 96, but they have not yet once arrived with a winning record. So he just loves to pour salt in that wound. Another one and done, and now he's talking about Steve Wilkes. So Steve Wilkes is the guy that the media has designated for character assassination. They've identified him. He's the target. They're going to get him out of here. And, I'm kind of 50-50. He hasn't done a good job, but he doesn't have players at the same time. So I'm always like, well, can we see what he could do with some players? But the media has decided that Steve Wilkes is where they're going to fire their weapons of character assassination. So he goes on and on about how bad the defense is, and they're blaming Steve Wilkes. Interception drought. This is another narrative that's not going to go away until we pick one off. We haven't got one, so that's just going to always be there. One tough cookie. Jets are, he talks about there was one game last year against Auburn when Cook injured his ankle on the opening drive, went to the hospital for an MRI, and returned to lead the fourth quarter touchdown drives for a 21-17 victory, his signature game in college. Armand Membu, his teammate, said he showed the type of leader he is, what he meant to our team. And if you missed the news, also, I put out on Twitter, where you should follow me on X, But their offensive coordinator there at Missouri, who was there for a few years with Cook and Membu, he just got a head coaching job. So apparently, smart guy. Got elevated to head coach. He got a promotion. Gets to be a head coach of a team now. Jets, it says, have an inordinate number of pending free agents, 22 of the 53 players. That's every year it's about 35% of the roster. This is a little high, I'd say. But we can knock that down very easily by signing some of our role players very easily. Max Mitchell, Andrew Beck, Xavier Newman, all these type of role players that we have, they should be easy to get back, I would think. Kene Nwangu, etc. The Jets have to decide by May whether to exercise Will McDonald's fifth-year option for 2027, projected at $15 million. I would say that's going to be declined. He has 7 sacks, 4 came in the same game. Basically, McDonald can dominate very bad offensive linemen. He does okay against okay offensive linemen, but if you put a good one on him, he's not strong enough yet. So that'll probably be declined. They might sign McDonald to a long deal, longer-ish deal at a reasonable number, but for 15, probably not. Probably not. We'll see what they do with that. Lukewarm endorsement. So one of the things Wilkes said they asked him about Jamien Sherwood. Now, this was a good question by the media. How do you think Jamien Sherwood has done this year? Simple, no lead up, no ramp up question, just a simple question. Please give us your assessment of Jamien Sherwood. Leaves it open for him to say whatever he wants. You're not leading him down a primrose path with the question. And he actually gave a surprisingly frank answer. I think, in my opinion, Sherwood is having a decent year, he said. Up and down a little bit in regards to tackling. Yeah. And when your defensive coordinator says that about you, even if it's true, it's a little worrying because the coaches usually want to protect the players. So if you're coming out in public saying decent year and up and down, whew. But we can talk about the solution for Jamien. Which I think I do have. Facing Trevor Lawrence. Oh, yeah. So the media is always going to bring up this season where we were tanking for Trevor and then the punter, Braden Mann, screwed it all up. And so that'll always be a storyline. We wound up with Zach Wilson, of course, who has been terrible. Now, Trevor Lawrence has not lived up to his billing as generational or even great, but he has been a starter his whole career, and they did give him all the money. So you'd have to say, out of that whole class, he's been the best, even if he hasn't been what he was supposed to be. And certainly the second pick, our pick, Zach Wilson, turned into a disaster for us, and we all know about that. Then there's the last word about Isaiah Williams. He's under contract for next year, so we don't have to worry about him. He'll be back, and that's good. Chris Banjo, our special teams coordinator, said, I think he's done everything he possibly can do so far, not only to put his name out there, but to show he can be a Pro Bowl guy or an All-Pro in this league. Yeah, he's had a great year, so he's one of the guys that we will be retaining, I believe. So that's all from Chimney's column, and that's the latest. Well, let's see what else we got here. Cimini puts out something. Breece Hall needs 123 rushing yards to become the first running back to hit 1,000 since Chris Ivory in 2015. There have only been 18 1,000-yard rushing seasons in Jets history. It'll be tough sledding. Jacksonville has the number 1 rush defense. It's interesting about the Jaguars. They turned that defense around pretty much in 1 year, which goes to show it can be done. Need a little bit more focus on the defensive line, please, and the linebackers. So that's really what's going on as far as Jet news is concerned. Joe Mikes. So let's go now to the comments. I hope the Jets view Josh Myers as a backup. Well, as I put out, Joe Mike, And if you follow me on X or you become a member of the inner circle, the contract says it's flexibility. He can be a starter, he can be a backup, but I also would not rely on PFF at all, Joe. The PFF grades should not be relied on. What I would say about the PFF grades, they're usually directionally correct. So is Josh Myers great? No. Uh, is Josh Myers exactly what his PFF grade says he is? No. So they're usually directionally correct, but I wouldn't use them as a basis for analysis. I didn't always used to think that, but I've come to that determination. But Myers, the good thing about that contract is it's $3 million a year. So Tippmann's not going back to center. Tippmann's staying at guard, in my opinion. That's what the contract means. And guards are more valuable than centers on the market, so that's a good thing. Now the number is $3 million for 2 years, 6 total guaranteed. So that's $3 million a year. That's nothing. So he can be a backup, but he can be a starter if you need him to be. What it does is it preserves optionality. He's a good locker room guy. He wants to be here. Seems to love AG and what we're doing. All good. And we gave him a reasonable contract. That's El Cheapo contract. And if he reaches the incentives that are in there, then great. He'll have outplayed the value we thought he was at, and he's worth it. We're happy to pay it. So the contract tells you a lot, and it's a really good contract. And it tells you, okay, let's get this guy here. He can start if we need him to, but he can be a backup as well. It doesn't lock us into anything. And let's just start getting some continuity going around here. That's why we should sign Max Mitchell and Xavier Newman as well. They're backups. Max Mitchell has a specific role as the sixth lineman. Just sign him. You put any contract in front of Max Mitchell, he's going to sign it. Right? Let's get him here. He has a role. It's not going to cost much. Just get him here. Same thing with Kane. Same thing with Andrew Beck. Same thing with some of these role players. Just start building out the roster on El Cheapo deals, and this was hopefully the first of a few of these that we're going to see. And this is the same concept with Josh Myers. Solid player, can start if you want him to, but he doesn't have to. And if you do better in the draft and you get a guy, great. But if you don't, all right. You got to preserve optionality because you never know what's going to happen. Joe Mike says Heisman Mendoza. Yep. Phil Adams, Sticky needs to stick around. Well, he's going to be here. He's under contract. The question is, and he's a really good special teamer, so he has value here and a backup. But now, question is, can he elevate the game up to a starter level? Julian is here. They're not going to get rid of Shador, and we have to figure out, before we can talk about the draft and trading 3 first-rounders and whatever, we have to figure out where they all land, who comes out, who's not coming out, what's the quarterback class look like. Dante Moore is the key domino there. So before we really know where we are in terms of trades and what we will make, Giuliani, sorry. We got to see how it all plays out. Spin Max Dave. Well, we'll probably do a free agent show at some point. At some point, things will become clearer. Who looks like they're going to actually make it to free agency? Who doesn't? I've already stated some people we should re-sign: Xavier Newman, Max Mitchell, Kene Nwangu, Andrew Beck. All those people should come back. They're role players, and you can get them cheaply. So there's no reason to stress about that. Just sign him up. Whatever contract you put in front of Max Mitchell, he's going to sign it. So those are easy ones. You know, tougher call is, what do we do at guard? Will AVT accept an incentive-laden contract? He might not. He might think, people think a lot of me on the open market. I could get a big deal despite all the injury risk. That would be my particular way. I would sign AVT to a small deal with small guarantees, but with a lot of incentives, and then go ahead and draft his backup just in case. And that's what I would do. But it's looking like Quincy's not going to be here, for example. So Phil Adams mentions Old Man Rivers. He keeps on rolling along. Well, think about this from Seattle's point of view. For those who don't know, the Seattle Seahawks have the number one defense in the NFL according to DVOA. What do you think Mike McDonald was telling the defense last night? Here you have the Colts going into the old folks' home and pulling out some grandpappy to come back after 5 years out of the league, and they not only just put him on the team for, to mentor somebody or something, they're starting him against you people. He's talking to his defense. Against you. They think they can win with this old grandfather against you. They're insulting you. This is an insult. That conversation last night, I would love to be a fly on the wall for that one. If Seattle doesn't come out and sack this guy 15 times in this game, I'd be shocked. They got to be like, they can't wait for this game to start because it is insulting to them. Really, the Colts, they didn't go with their backup. They have two backups, Riley Leonard and Matt Rippin, whatever his name is. Rippin. They could have gone to those guys. No, they went into the old folks' home and got a guy that was almost inducted into the Hall of Fame. That's how old he is. A grandpappy. And they're starting him against you. Defense. This is how little they think of you, defense. That this guy's their best chance. Old man Rivers. What? So that's the game of the week. It'll be fascinating to see if he can actually function on a football field after 5 years away. Fascinating. And then what the hell do the Seahawks do? I mean, if you don't sack that man 15 times at least, you got to be embarrassed. You got to be embarrassed, and I'll be very anxious to see what happens there. Blitz this man from the popcorn stand. Hike day. Spin Max, should we sign Ruckert? Probably. Depends what he wants. El Cheapo deal? Sure. I think he's falling into tight end 3. What we really need is like a blocking tight end, a guy coming out of college who you can get in the 6th round, like the guy Buffalo got last year. To be our tight end 2, to just block his ass off. And Ruckert could be tight end 3. That's fine. $2, $3 million. El Cheapo deals. I think, El Cheapo deals, Muji should be handing them out like candy because we just need some role players. A tight end 3 for Ruckert, fine. If he wants that. Want to go to the open market, see how they value you, where you've had no production, your blocking's been very shoddy. I mean, good luck with that. Here we're giving you a decent deal, El Cheapo deal, but it's a deal. And you can be tight end 3, and, that's fine. You need El Cheapo deals for people that you know and like and good in the locker room and all that kind of thing. So, yeah, but, I mean, if he wants money, then no. Oh, why are we going to give money to Jeremy Ruckert? He's played like a tight end 3 in the league. He's been underwhelming. Joe Mike says, draft Sonny Styles. Yeah, the problem with drafting Sonny Styles with the 15th pick is that he's probably the best, he's probably a top 5 player in the draft or so. So he's probably not going to make it to there. Legal seniors abuse. Yeah. I mean, the Colts brought it on themselves. Spin Max Dave. Daniel Jones, no. The Colts are probably going to sign him, but no, he's not the right kind of guy for us. Venom, he's been talking with Steichen. Yeah, I know all that, Venom. He's 44 years old. So it'll be interesting to see, you could take that 2 ways. People took it the wrong way, Venom. It's like, so what you're telling me is the Colts are running a high school offense. Nobody thought of it that way except old Frankie. So what you're telling me is the Colts have been running a high school level offense? What? Yeah, so those who don't know, Gunner is Philip Rivers' son, and apparently he's going to be a prospect, I guess. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, he's been a coach. You could say the same thing about everybody. I mean, what are we going to do? Have Luke, what's his name, Josh McCown, come back too? He did the same thing with his son in high school and all this. So everybody who's got a son in high school, we just bring them back? Get out of here. Now, it'll be fascinating if he carves him up, right? Like the opposite side, I'm thinking Seattle's got to put this guy out. Like broken clavicle, broken fibula. Not that I want that to happen, but, just like they got to, let's just put it this way. They got to sack the guy 15 times. But let's say they don't. What happens if he carves him up? Seahawk fans will be tearing their hair out. So that to me is the most fascinating game, and it's at Seattle. The Seattle fans have got to be raring to go. Like that place has got to be rocking, right? That place has got to be louder than it's ever been. Like they should take offense on behalf of the defense. You're bringing this guy out, 44-year-old grandpappy? What? They got to be loud as hell, man, on behalf of their defense. But then if he starts carving them up, it's going to be funny any which way. That game is totally fascinating. And of course, there's going to be implications. So like the Jets' luck, Philip Rivers comes out. We need the, for those who don't know, we need the Colts to lose. Lose, not because we hate the Colts, but because we have their first round pick, so we want that pick to be as valuable as possible. So because we need them to lose, of course, Philip Rivers probably come out and throw for 400 freaking yards and 5 touchdowns. And the Seahawks will be like, what the hell is going on? I mean, Mike McDonald is a defensive coach, and you're bringing 44-year-old grandpappy, hasn't played in 5 years out here against a defensive coach, against the number 1 defense in the league at home. And they have a great home field advantage at that place over there. And he's going to carve you up. Well, with the Jets' luck, yeah. You watch, it'll happen. Seattle defense is number 1, Venom. It's number 1 in DVOA. The thing that you want is DVOA, especially this late in the year. EPA, no. Yards, no. You could go scoring defense. That's okay by me. Or DVOA. That's it. I don't want to hear about yards. I don't care how many fucking yards you give up. Points, yes. Yards, who cares? But an EPA is based on yards. But DVOA gives you the context. And DVOA says they're number 1. Looked it up last night, because I was wondering about this game. and numero uno, with a great defensive line. All kinds of linebackers and edge players, and they got a real defense. Excuse me. As opposed to the Jets, who got nothing. We thought we could get away with Braden McGregor and Michael Clements and a bunch of other bums. Jake Tufele. Sakes. Yeah, JoJo's got it right. Seattle defense is elite. Think of all the players they have. It's incredible. They stacked it up. And over the years, they built it up. You cannot tear down your defensive line. You cannot. You got to build it up. You got to keep drafting it. Keep drafting it. Free agents, trades, whatever you got to do. Get these players. I'm a big advocate for defensive line. Spin Max Dave. So let's look at today's game. So it's an interesting slate. Where did I save this? Bookmarks. So the NFL has got to not really love. I mean, it's week 15. There's not a lot of good games here. For example, so related to the Jets, so the Jets are playing the Jaguars. Of course, we want the Jets to play well and then lose at the end, basically. Because the season's over, we got to think about draft position. So that we know. For the Jets, the Colts, we need the Colts to lose. So you want Old Man Rivers to fall on his face, and you want Seattle to pull that one out. Let's go Sammy Darnold. So we're rooting for Sammy Darnold today. That's obvious. We need that pick to keep moving on up, moving on up. The further it moves up, the better position we're in. We also want the Vikings to beat the Cowboys. So we want the fighting Quinnen Williamses to lose because they gave us a second round pick. We want that pick to keep moving on up, moving on up, moving on up. The more valuable that pick is, maybe we could trade it, but if we keep it, either way, it's a more valuable asset if they lose. So we were rooting for J.J. McCarthy tonight against the Dallas Cowboys. You want the Titans to lose. So the Titans are playing the 49ers at 425. Not a good game at all, but you just want the fighting Robert Salehs to beat them because we want the Titans as high up as possible because they don't need a quarterback. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, you want the fighting Tyler Shucks, the Saints, the New Orleans Saints, to win. You want them to win because you want them to fall back. They have their quarterback, in my opinion, in Tyler Shuck. Other people will tell you not so fast. I'm telling you, they have their quarterback. They don't need one. So you want them to beat the Panthers. They're playing the Carolina Panthers. Panthers have been up and down, but if the Panthers win that game, they're in first place in their division. Important game for the fighting Bryce Youngs, but Tyler Shuck has played well, especially if you grade him on a rookie scale. He's played pretty well. Especially because he wasn't that heralded at all, really, by most. So you want the Saints to win. Then you have the Commies against the Gigantes. That game is like, well, somebody's going to win it. They're both ahead of us, and they both don't need a quarterback, so that one doesn't really matter. I guess I don't know. That one's a wash. One of them's going to win and fall. I guess you'd want Washington to win and have them fall down. I don't think there's any problem if the Giants are number 1 or 2 and we need to trade with them. I don't think there's any kind of problem trading with them like the old days. People would say the Yankees and Mets can't make a trade because New York, they don't. I don't think that's going to be the case here because it's going to be, if it's a great deal for the Giants and they use all these picks to get good, what do we care if we get our quarterback? It's not our problem if the Giants are good. In fact, I don't care. Does anybody in the Jet fan base care if the Giants are good? In fact, we should want the Giants to be good and the Jets. We should want there to be like an actual rivalry of good teams so that, so it's kind of fun when we play them in the regular season and there's a chance for a Subway Super Bowl. Can you imagine if the Giants played the Jets in the Super Bowl? Now that would be fun. I mean, talk about fun. You got Big Brother, 4 Super Bowl rings against Little Brother. 1 little old ring, and it happened 50 years ago. The Giants have theirs much more recently, of course. I've never understood this idea. I've never even understood it in baseball with the Yankees and Mets. I always I'm a Yankee fan, but I would want the Mets to win. Now, I haven't been following baseball because I think it's boring these days. But when I was following baseball, I wanted the Mets to be good because I wanted to play them in the World Series. Why not? That's fun as hell. So, in other words, if the Giants lose and they move up, I don't think there's any problem with us trading with them. Now, the Browns and Bears, you want the Browns to win that game. So you want to be a Shadorian going forward this year. You want Shador to be really good. Now, Shador put up, for those who don't know, 364 yards last year, mostly yak, but nonetheless, 364. So the Shadorian cult, and it is a cult. A lot of these quarterbacks coming out of college, they got a cult that goes along with them. And the Shadorian one is very powerful for some reason. People have really latched on to Shador. But anyway, we want Shador to play really good today and beat the Bears and the rest of the season, so that way the Browns think they got it as far as QBs go. Because don't forget, they get Deshaun Watson back next year. And what if, let's say Shador's really good for the rest of the year, and they go, all right, well, Shador will be QB1 next year to start. He did really good in X number of games, however many games will be that he's played, 6, 7, whatever it is. And we got Deshaun Watson as a backup plan. And behind that, we got Dylan Gabriel, who probably is going to stay in the league as a backup. He's a smart kid. He can dink and dunk his way as a backup. So we actually have three. So you want them to do good to get more wins, to get out of the top. You want us to move up. But then also you want them to think, well, we don't need to take one this year. And if all those plans fail, the Browns could be thinking, we got all these quarterbacks to choose from the next year. Arch Manning and Julian Sayin and C.J. Carr, and maybe Lenore Sellers figures it out. He's going back to school, by the way, in case you missed that news. And a bunch of others who, so 27 as of now, things always change, but as of now, 27 is looking like a stocked class for quarterbacks. So the Browns could say, well, we got three here. Why are we going to take another one? We got a backup on our backup. So in other words, we got Shador. If he does good, we just keep rolling. If he falls and stumbles, all right, we'll try Deshaun. He's got to be on the roster anyway as far as the money goes. Paying him all this money, let's see him play. But that's our backup plan. Deshaun, whatever happens, if he plays good, we keep rolling. If he doesn't, well, let's bring Dylan in here. And, and then by that time, when you make that choice, then it's like, all right, time to focus on 27. And the guy they really want, the Browns, the other thing to keep in mind with the Browns, Jimmy Haslam has a very close relationship with the Manning family. He's pretty tight with, actually, Deion Sanders as well. But Jimmy Haslam has a very tight relationship with the Manning family. So the belief is he actually, if all things were equal, he would prefer to have Arch Manning. And it's looking like Arch Manning isn't coming out till next year. So why not run it back that way? You got backups on your backups for next year, and then if all fails, if it all falls apart again, well, then you go get Arch Manning, or whoever you like, Julian Sayin, C.J. Carr, Lenoris, lots of options. So I could see that happening, but what you have to root for is what happened last week. Have Shador put up a big statistical game at least. I don't know if it means he's going to be good, but he put up big stats anyway, and that's good. But they did lose in the end to the Titans, which was bad. But you want them to win. So you want the Browns to beat the Bears. You want the Cardinals to beat the Texans. Chargers, Chiefs, doesn't matter. Washington, you probably want Washington to beat the Giants, but if they lose, it's not a tragedy because that'll give the Giants another win, although they still have one fewer than us. Green Bay, Denver, no rooting interest. You want the Saints to beat the Panthers. You want the 49ers to beat the Titans. But if the Titans won, that's not a tragedy. It's just they don't need a quarterback. So if the Titans won and then somehow won again and tied us, they could. So that one's not a tragedy if the Titans win that, because then they're falling back, and if we continue to lose, we move up. Raiders, Eagles, you want the Raiders to figure out a way to beat the Eagles. The way they would do it is Kenny Pickett's. Old baby hands Kenny Pickett is back. So maybe Kenny Pickett's can figure out a way to run around or do something and beat the Eagles. That would be nice. Would also be nice to see the continuous fall of the Eagles, as it has been over these last few weeks. Everybody trying to figure out what the hell's going on. Is it Jalen Hurts? Is it A.J. Brown reading too many books on the sideline? Nobody really knows. But Howie Roseman can't make any more trades. Trade deadline has passed, so that's not an option. But it'd be fun to see the Raiders come up big and beat the Eagles. That's probably not going to happen, but it'd be nice. It'd be fun and funny to see. Lions and Rams, no rooting interest there. You want the Seahawks to beat the Colts, and you want the Vikings to beat the Cowboys. So there you go, Dave. There you go. Yep, just talked about that. Now, the Raiders, I don't know what they're going to do. And nobody does. They got Pete Carroll over there. They got Geno Smith. They got Kenny Pickett. They got Aiden O'Connell. They could wait. Their whole team stinks. If they took Mendoza, let's say, he would have a terrible situation to go in. They go into. They have no offensive line. They have no weapons except for Bowers and Genty. You really want to put a rookie quarterback into that? No defense except for Max Crosby. It seems to me they need to just bridge it with either Pickett or Geno. Get an offensive coordinator that could work with Geno. They hired Chip Kelly. That was probably the worst hire in the NFL history, or one of. $6 million they gave him, $6 million, and then got fired the first year. Mark Davis, I guess he's not playing around. Well, he got all that private equity money, but why can't we get Geno an offensive coordinator that he's worked with in the past at Seattle with Carroll to bridge it to 27? In other words, build up the rest of your team this year, get some premier talent. If they were at the top, if I were them, I'd take Arvell Reese. Or Reuben Bain, or one of these people. Imagine Reuben Bain and Max Crosby. Now you're starting to get somewhere. Arvell Reese and Max Crosby. Okay, now you could do something. And just build it up. They need to build up the team. They have nothing. They have a terrible roster. So, I don't know. But we got to see what offensive coordinator they hire, where they go that way. And then, do they feel like Pickett or Geno could be a bridge? They were hoping Geno could get it done, but then it all fell apart with all these coaches. And there's been rumors that, Chip Kelly was not a Pete Carroll hire. And so maybe Pete Carroll now goes, hey, can we listen to me? I'm the head coach here. I kind of have had a lot of success wherever I've been, whether it be Seattle, Southern California. I've had a lot of success in coaching football teams here. Can we get the OC that I want and that can work with Geno? Maybe they go that way, and they say, look, if you give Geno, a decent OC, and he can do some things. But we don't know. They may get it into their head that they need to get Heisman Mendoza, and who knows. But I don't think that's a good situation for any rookie quarterback to go into. But it would be nice if they could pull out some wins. So let's root for Kenny Pickett nonetheless. Yep. Mendoza to the Jets. The more I learn about Fernando Mendoza, he is a great guy. I almost feel like the Jets don't deserve him, to be honest with you. It's like, man, this is such a nice guy. He's a great guy, great kid. And we're going to bring him to our shit show. In New Jersey. But I'd be happy if we got him. That said, I don't know. I don't make guarantees that people are going to be good or great. He's a good prospect. Well, But in a way, I would kind of be like, do we really want him here? Can he go somewhere else that might be better for him? Why wouldn't you be a Mets fan? Well, how it worked, Phil Adams, is that when you're a child, you choose your teams. This is how it works, Phil. At least in America. In England, I don't know. In England, it depends on what hooligan crew is in your neighborhood, I guess. But in America, you choose your team as a child. And when I was a child, the Yankees had a player by the name of Reggie Jackson. Reginald Martinez Jackson. And when I saw Reggie Jackson on my television, I thought, holy smokes, this man is awesome. I was like, this guy is incredible. The swagger, just the way he did everything, and then how good he was. I loved Reggie, man. So once I fell in love with Reggie Jackson, that was it. Yankee fan for life. That's it. You make your choice as a child, and that's it. You're stuck, just like the Jets, stuck with it forever. So usually it's Jets and Mets and Nets. But I was Yankees, Knicks, Jets. That's the way it was. I fell in love with Patrick Ewing as well. What am I going to tell you? Julani Yak. Yeah. So Spin Max Dave, welcome to the Inner Square. All right, Dave, good job joining. Congratulations. You're going to get now, Dave, you got to check out the posts. I post a lot of stuff for the members in the posts area. And sometimes YouTube doesn't notify you. So you got to be careful. And just check it every once in a while, because I'm posting great stuff there, if I must say so myself. You get exclusive items, plus you get all of the grades of the quarterbacks and everything. And let me know on there. Send me a message either on X or on YouTube if you have any trouble, Dave, accessing resources. Chiefs wins, get them over the Colts. Well, so I guess we root for the Chiefs. I mean, I would say that Chargers-Chiefs game is just one you just watch and say, well, first of all, Justin Herbert is fun to watch. He's elite. And then you got Patrick Mahomes running around. So, that would be one you just kind of like go, all right, let's see some football here. Because if the Chiefs lose, it won't be 100%, but they're pretty much out of the playoffs. And so they're fighting for their lives. And so that should be a dogfight. And the Chargers are fighting to be relevant. They have this elite quarterback, and they have a supposedly elite head coach, though he left behind a pretty big mess at Michigan. And here they are. They should be better than they are. So what's going on with the Chargers? And the Chargers need to be relevant in this Harbaugh era, and they need to start proving, okay, we got what it takes to be a real team and not fall apart again, which they always do. Giuliani, Brown's media. Well, that's too broad, Giuliani. We need to know who in the media are saying Shador will have a small sample size, so if a quarterback falls to them, they must take him. Well, it depends who in the media is saying that. Is it smart people or dum-dums? You can't tell me Brown's media. Now, if you're telling me Garrett Bush, G. Bush as he goes by, on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show is saying that, then I might take it more seriously. That's a trusted source. But if you're telling me some idiots on the radio are saying that, then fuck them. You have to know who it is in the media. You can't just tell me Brown's media. Got to tell me who, Jelani. That's very important. We should establish that on FSPN, that when we talk about the media or something vague like that, we should be very specific about where the information comes from. Because some people are great, some people are not. Dan Orlovsky, no, he's a total dum-dum, for example, on ESPN. Shady Brady wants a rookie QB to develop. We don't know what shady Tom Brady wants. Tom Brady's been terrible in all the decisions he's made since he retired. Now, he's very, very wealthy, so you could say, how's he unsuccessful? Like, he's a terrible broadcaster quality-wise, but he makes $30 million from that. He bought into the franchise, a minority stake into the Raiders, so that's a good financial decision. But then everything he's had his hands on as far as the Raiders has turned out total crap. He couldn't convince Ben Johnson to come there. He told the Raiders not to go and get Sam Darnold. They didn't. Look what he's doing. And then he blessed off on this Chip Kelly making $6 million a year, and then he got fired in the first year. So first of all, shady Tom Brady has been making horrible decisions as far as football decisions, influencing the Raiders organization. And second of all, who the hell knows what he wants? I mean, if you wanted to develop a quarterback, why did you hire a 74-year-old head coach and not a significant – who's their quarterback coach? Do we know? Like, you didn't hire a Josh McCown or somebody that you would pay a lot of money, steal him from somewhere, and then say, all right, this is going to be our QB guru. We really need him here because we're going to have this plan. We don't know what he wants. I would suspect he wants to win. And if you look at what he did in England, old Phil Adams, with the Birmingham Blues, Birmingham City Football Club over here with the Blues, how did he get them to start winning, Phil? Well, he and his partner spent a literal crap ton of money on players, right? Who's a player? Who's the best player on Birmingham? Birmingham City Football Club, the Blues. Who is it? Well, it's a guy that they Well, it's two guys, right? Isn't it two guys? Alfie May and some other guy, Stanfield, something like that. And they basically gave them more money than anybody's ever given them in that situation. Things are weird over there with the soccer. I don't know exactly how it works. But anyway, they threw so much money at those guys that they came to their club, and all of a sudden they started winning. Oh, my goodness. So his philosophy, at least in soccer, was let's just get the best players by spending all this money, and there's no salary cap, I don't think, in that league, as far as I'm aware. You could tell me, Phil. So that was the way they did that. They didn't develop anybody there. Now, that doesn't mean that's what they're going to do here with the quarterback, but from what we've seen so far, Shady Tom Brady, number one, hasn't been great, and then number two, hasn't had any kind of philosophy that involved developing people. It was just let's go throw as much money as we possibly can to get the best players we can, which is not, it's not illegal, but but it's not exactly development. It was just like, let's get Alfie May and let's get Steinfeld, or whatever his name is, and they're really good and they will score goals and then we will win. And that's it. That was what they did. This is literally what they did. Not rocket science. They forced Chip on Pete. Yeah. And now Pete, what do you think Pete's going to do? Pete's going to say, look, you forced this guy on me. I told you not to do it at the time, right? He's going to go to them and say, can we listen to old Pete now? I kind of know what I'm doing. I kind of been doing it, You forced this guy, and now he's gone. He's out of here. What is this? How about we bring in my guy? So it'll be fascinating. Now, they might fire Pete Carroll. We don't. I mean, they might say, so we have no idea what's going on with that franchise. They're a total wild card. Spin Max Dave, I thought the Jets get the hire of Dallas or Green Bay second, thus root for Green Bay too. That may be true. I haven't looked at that. Thus root against Green Bay. All right, so root for the Broncos then. Go ahead. I mean, it's kind of a fascinating game anyway. I mean, Green Bay, Denver is one of the few good matchups we have here. So, it's like Green Bay, Jordan Love with all of his deep passes and all. And then you have Denver with their stifling defense. So how does that defense do against Jordan Love? And then Bo Nix, who usually plays 3.5 quarters of terrible quarterback play, and then he rises to the occasion in the midway through the fourth quarter. He wakes up and starts doing incredible things. So that'll be an interesting game. But Green Bay is not going to be Dallas is almost certainly going to wind up with a worse record than Green Bay, but I guess you could do that. Now, Spin Max Dave, the other thing is if you have not so great questions, you can ask them in the posts. That I do. You could ask. This is something that people don't do. Inner Circle members, listen up. If I do a post about something, but you have a question about something else, because you're a member, I will take you much more seriously. And you can say, off topic, what do you think about this? Because there's no way to right now on YouTube to kind of like have a chat board or something. They refuse to lean into that. But you can ask your not so great questions there, and I'll actually take them seriously because you're a member. The members are the privileged group. They are the people. They are the ones who get privileged treatment. Like Johnny. Johnny's a member. Just the right amount of snark, Frankie. Johnny's a member. Johnny, make sure you check out the post, my friend. Browns reporter Mary Kay. Oh, okay. But she is a mouthpiece. No, Mary Kay Cabot is a good, okay, that's a good source, Jelani. Now, she is kind of a mouthpiece, but that's okay. As long as you know that about her, then you take what she says accordingly, right? Now, what I was thinking was like these guys on the radio, if you're taking it from like Cleveland Talk Radio, no. Those guys are just, ratings whores like everybody else. But Mary Kay is a reliable source. So if she's saying that, I would take it more seriously, and I'll try to find that actually on YouTube. I follow the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. I would recommend that if you're interested in Cleveland sports or the Browns. Those guys are really good. That's a really good show. in particular Garrett Bush, G. Bush, as he calls himself, is really good. But the rest of the people they have on there are also very good. And sometimes they have Mary Kay Cabot on. And so I would say Mary Kay is a trusted source. But I would like to see the context in which she said what she said. Blue Noses are 12th in a league of 24th. Huh. I thought but didn't they move up, Phil? Didn't they ascend into the higher league? I would like to know because I only know from following this documentary that they have on Amazon. And it seemed like they ascended. I think they were in League 2 or whatever. You got the Premier League, then you got the Champions League, which is weird that that's lower, but it's lower. Then you got League 2 or something. Then you got League 1. Then you got League 0, League 0.5, 0.623. You got all these leagues. But anyway, I think they were in League 2, and then they ascended into the Championship League. Isn't that right? And they were all celebratory about it. And they beat out, what's his name's team? The Mint Mobile guy. The Deadspin guy. And they ascended. And the reason they came in first in that third league, third on the rung, but they had to elevate into the Champions League, Championship League, Champions League, whatever it's called. And now they're in there. But now you're saying they're low in the Champions League, but that's better than being in League 2 or 1 or whatever the number is. 5.7. And they did that by giving people Steinfeld and Alfie May and these people lots and lots and lots of money. That's how they did it. As far as I know. That's based on this documentary. I don't know, maybe that's incorrect. But all right. So now let's do late breaking news. Let's see what anybody's talking about. Jet beat riders, nothing. College football. Josh Pate is saying that. So if you want to know, here's a trusted voice on college football, the most trusted, my opinion, Josh Pate. And he's putting out a tweet saying that he thinks he'll, quote unquote, fit any locker room after he took that big hit at Ohio State and came back. I'm not sure why he felt compelled to post this. Maybe some people are saying he won't fit into certain locker rooms. I don't know about that. Everything about Fernando seems really good. The teammates love him. The coaches love him. Everything. So that's college. NFL. Snowy day. Brian McCarthy, NFL PR guy, says, snowy day in the New York area. Perfect football watching weather with a great slate of games throughout the day. Okay. Nice conditions here in New York. So in New York, apparently it's snowing. There's snow on the ground. There's a few inches. Somebody's posting a picture of Manhattan. Here in Florida, it's going to get a little cold. It might dip into the 60s. A little cold here. Birmingham are now in the second of 4 league. Yeah, the championship. That's what I said. So if they're struggling in the championship league, that's better than them being in the third league, which is where they were. Now they're in the second league. They moved up, and they moved up by spending big bucks, which again is not development. It's, let's throw tons of money at this. Darnell Washington, concussion has been cleared from protocol, upgraded to have no injury designation for Monday. So Mount Washington will play Monday night game. Miami, that's also an interesting game just from a watching standpoint. The Bears in Chicago does not seem to be a weather game in Chicago, at least from what Daniel Oyefushi is posting. Seems like clear skies, no snow in the stadium there, at least as of right now. Mark Maskey saying there's light snow falling in Foxborough ahead of Patriots-Bills game. The big game feel is back at Gillette Stadium. Patriots can clinch the AFC East title with a win. Do people arriving? People arriving. So, yeah, it doesn't seem to be much breaking NFL news. Cold conditions, etc., etc. So the Jets were able to escape the snow and come down here to Florida, so that's good. Yeah, nothing else really happening. Guys arriving. Yeah. All right. So that's pretty much that. Giuliani. All right, so that'll do it for another episode of Coffee with Frankie. Thank you for joining. Please give a thumbs up if you haven't already. Consider subscribing if you're not. And consider, just like some of the folks in the chat, joining the inner circle, the inner square. We got different levels for different situations, economic situations, $2, $5, $9, whatever you can afford. And you get exclusive items that way, including grading, quarterback grading, and all of the fun data analytics and scouting stuff and free scout guides. You name it, you get it. That's if you join the inner circle, the inner square, the inner triangle. Click join down below, and I'll see you guys next time.